Hello everyone. Today, we bring you a story that is deeply disturbing, not just because of how a child died, but because of how many chances there were to save her. This is the story of a little girl who begged for help. A child who spoke up. A child who showed her injuries. A child who trusted the system. And yet, she was sent back. Months later, she was dead. Tonight, we examine how warnings were missed, how a case was closed, and how a child protection system failed in the most tragic way possible. This is not just a crime story. This is a story about accountability. The victim was Rebecca Baptiste, just 10 years old. Friends and school staff described her as quiet, vulnerable, and often absent. Those absences, we now know, were not random. Behind closed doors, Rebecca was living in fear. According to investigators, she lived with her father and his girlfriend, isolated, off-grid, far from neighbors, far from help. But Rebecca tried to escape that silence. In October, months before her death, Rebecca did something incredibly brave. She ran to a gas station and begged a clerk for help. Police were called. When officers arrived, Rebecca told them she was being beaten. She described being hit with a belt and a brush. She said she was forced to run as punishment. Police observed her injuries, including a bloody lip and bruises. She was taken to Phoenix Children's Hospital. This was not a rumor. This was not speculation. This was documented. And yet, despite all of this, the case did not move forward. According to records, Rebecca's father and his girlfriend claimed her injuries were self-inflicted. That explanation was accepted. The case was closed. No removal. No long-term monitoring. No protection order. Rebecca was sent back to the same environment she had tried to escape. This decision would later become central to the investigation, and to public outrage. After that incident, Rebecca's family moved to a remote campsite in Arizona. They lived in a yurt, with no electricity, no running water. Isolation is a common pattern in abuse cases. When a child is cut off from school, neighbors, and community, abuse becomes easier to hide, and harder to stop. Rebecca became increasingly invisible. On July 27, emergency responders were called to that remote campsite. Rebecca was found unresponsive. She could not be saved. What investigators would later discover shocked even seasoned professionals. The medical examiner documented extreme abuse. Among the findings: a brain hemorrhage, burn marks, missing toenails, missing patches of hair, numerous cuts and bruises across her body. These were not accidental injuries. Authorities say this was the result of sustained, escalating abuse. Rebecca's father and his girlfriend are now charged with first-degree murder, multiple counts of child abuse. Prosecutors allege that abuse extended beyond Rebecca, involving younger children as well. Both suspects are in custody as the case moves through the legal system. As the criminal case unfolds, another investigation is underway, one focused on the system itself. Records show Rebecca's school contacted Child Protective Services more than a dozen times over 2 years. Reports included unexplained absences, welfare concerns, behavioral warning signs. Yet Rebecca remained in the same home. State officials are now reviewing how this happened, and whether protocols were ignored or inadequately enforced. This case has sparked widespread anger. Parents are asking, how many warnings are enough? Advocates are demanding reforms. Lawmakers are calling for accountability, not just for the accused, but for the agencies meant to protect children. The hardest question tonight is this. If a child reports abuse, shows injuries, and asks for help, what more must they do to be believed? Rebecca did everything she could. The adults around her did not. Rebecca Baptiste's story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Child abuse does not always happen in silence. Sometimes, it happens despite warnings, reports, and visible signs. Justice may come in a courtroom. But justice alone will not bring Rebecca back. If this tragedy leads to real reform, real accountability, and real protection for vulnerable children, then her voice, finally, may be heard. Because the most devastating failure is not that a child cried for help. It's that no one listened. Good night. 87,985